Hello, hello, hello. Been plenty of action in the news of late, and those lovely young ladies over at The View. See what they've been cooking up in their cauldron. I mean, in the realm of intellectual thought, and what nice things they've had to say as far as the world of politics. So, let's go.
Try to protest during the president's address, and then House leadership getting on to them, other Democrats calling them out. They still seem to be wandering around trying to figure this out.
Basically, the Democrats are still trying to sort out who's sailing their ship and what's going on in the camp.
What's your take?
Can we ask another question? Do I have to talk about my own party? Can we talk about Ukraine or something?
I like that. Very humane. Being able to laugh, display of humanity coming from the Dems. Very good.
No. Look, man, we're screwed. I mean, we don't know. No, Democrats don't know what to do. This is a nightmare. Somebody like Donald Trump, we thought we'd at least have Hakeem Jeffries in the speaker's chair to hold him back if we didn't have Kamala in there to do the right thing. Listen, the Democratic Party is going through a massive set of internal crises. You have a party that got trapped two ways.
Folks.
One, defending a broken status quo that nobody likes because they thought that Donald Trump was going to make it worse. But when you're defending the status quo, you're going to lose. And then offending most people in the country, calling everybody sexist and racist and transphobic and every other name, and then saying, please follow us. That's not a good strategy, folks. Defending a broken status quo and offending most of the country turns out is not as popular as my party thought it was going to be. And so it's going to take a while for people to get it figured out. I don't like talking about this. I'd rather be beat up. Can you give me something I can beat up Shermichael about? I don't want to talk about my own party.
Boy. So more coverage of the destruction of the Democrat Party, okay?
Oh, good old Dylan Mulvaney. Haven't seen his face for a while. And back around again.
That is in full-blown free fall. And as I have talked about so much over the past week or so, Democrats are facing a common sense litmus test that they just continue to fail over and over and over and over again. And I really don't know why, right? Actually, I do know why. I do understand why. Because the Democrat Party is beholden to people who are not on board with 80% of the American people, okay? Especially when it comes to this issue of trans athletes in sports, okay? An issue in which, again, 80% of the American people,
they just don't want to let it go.
63% of Democrats agree that biological boys should not compete against girls in sports, okay? This is a position that is a layup for Democrats to take, but they won't take that position for the reason of the fact that they know there will be a lot of revolt from their base, okay? The Democrats are afraid of their base, right? And because of that, they are stuck between a rock and a hard place, okay? They can try to appeal to moderate, more sane people in this country, or they can continue to try to appeal to their base. But they can't have their cake and eat it too. And that is the reason why they're currently lost, right? Why does the Democrat Party seem to be directionless? It's because, again, they can't have their cake and eat it too. They have to choose. Do you want to appeal to a majority of the country, right, who are more moderate, okay, or do you want to appeal to the loud minority on the left, okay? And Democrats don't really seem like they know what they want to do, but they're kind of defaulting towards just capitulating to the loud minority, right? That is what they're going to do. And if they do that, if this is the route they want to go down, then I don't think they're going to win any more elections, right? They're going to be stuck on square one. Trying to define what a woman is and whether or not biological boys should compete against biological girls in sports, okay? They will never be welcome to the table to have any serious conversation about any other subject until they get this one right, okay? That's where they're at. That's where they're at. And again, even the propagandists in the media, like The View, they want to keep this conversation going. Again, a conversation that could end, right? All Democrats got to do is just agree with 63% of Democrat voters. That's all they got to do, right? Agree with your own voters. If Democrats come out here and agree with their voters, we don't have to have this conversation. We can move on, right? Which is something that Democrats claim they want. They desperately don't want to talk about this issue. But to me, it seems like they do want to talk about it because The View, they're platforming Dylan Mulvaney, and they're going to talk about this issue of trans athletes in sports. And remember, The View speaks on behalf of the Democrat Party. Okay, so this is the official position of the Democrat Party. Okay, I just want people to understand what you're about to hear is what Democrats believe. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
I wanted to ask you, because there's been all of this debate about whether transgender athletes should be able to compete. And last week, California Governor Gavin Newsom said that he thinks that trans athletes competing in girls' and women's sports was deeply unfair. Now, I want to hear what you think, because I'll tell you what I think, too.
Yeah, the last time I played a sport, I was 6 years old, and I was on a soccer team, but I assigned myself as the nurse. So I sat with the Band-Aids. And so, in the words of Wicked, I am not that girl. But a dear friend of mine, Skylar, he is a trans athlete. His handle's Pink Manta Ray. That's someone who I really look to for guidance. And I think that is what's tricky, is like, now stepping in this identity. I'm still like a baby trans. You know, I've only 3 years in. Tomorrow's my anniversary.
Your friend went Your friend went from female to male and is competing with other males.
Correct.
No.
Yes.
Her friend.
Yes. Her friend. It went from female to male and is competing with other males.
So Gavin doesn't have a problem with that.
Well, I think part of the problem that the trans community is facing, and it's the same problem that women face, is if you don't know anything about our bodies, you don't know how it works. So when you come in and you say, oh, you know, these are men, you know,
competing
against women, you're assuming that the women are weak and just can't do anything except be here. Have you seen female athletes? They know what they're doing.
Wow.
Yes,
And clearly Whoopi has no clue what she's talking about. You know, I love how people pretend as if a woman's body is so complicated, right? A woman's body is so complicated, right? Oh, you don't understand how people's bodies work. No, we generally understand that there's a difference between biological boys and biological girls, right? We understand there's a difference between the sexes, okay? There's a difference between male and females. Generally speaking, women are weaker than men. Physically. Women are also not as fast as men. Women, their bone structures are different than men in regards to the density of their bones. Okay, the way they store muscle, the way they store fat. All of these things are different. And these differences are significant when it comes to athletic. And these differences still remain significant even if you are a trans person. For example, if you are a man and you become a woman, especially if you're a man and you already went through puberty, bone structure and skeletal frame, wider shoulders, narrow hips, larger bone size and density, longer limbs, wingspan, bigger hands and feet, all these things basically are permanent.
I think it has something to do with nature.
Right? It doesn't matter how many hormones that you take. As a male, you're going to retain a vast majority of the benefits when it comes to just bone structure and skeletal frame. When it comes to muscle and strength retention, yeah, muscle mass might decrease, but the structure still remains the same. You're still going to retain muscle mass and strength advantages. Grip strength, fast twitch muscle fibers, all of these things, again, they remain an advantage for male athletes, even if they transition. Lung size, heart size, tendon and ligament structure, all of these things are things that, again, they may change a little bit, but it's not going to be enough to reduce the significant advantage that male athletes have. Again, this is not overly complicated stuff. This is not about knowing how each person's body works. That's not what this is about. But again, this is the type of mental gymnastics.
I mean, whatever side of the fence you land on, this argument since Trump's election win is pretty much on its way to being settled in a practical sense.
That you have to go through in order to defend this stuff, right? Whoopi doesn't have a coherent defense of this, right? That's why she's just saying stuff. But my point is that this is the position of the Democrat Party. This is what they believe, right? This is what they believe. Because now they're basically platforming this conversation. They're making this conversation like a mainstream conversation, even though they claim they don't want to talk about it. But their refusal to agree with 80% of the American people means that we're going to continue to talk about it. And that is devastating for the Democrats. Why is it devastating for the Democrats? Because we keep an issue that is deeply unpopular for the Democrats in the mainstream conversation because of their refusal to simply acknowledge reality, right? That is what's happening. It is hilarious to me. It's hilarious because this is the last thing the Democrats want. They're acknowledging we don't want to talk about this, right? We want to talk about other things. But because they can't just agree with 80% of American people, this is why we have to keep talking about it, right? They keep pushing back. This is the far left pushing back. The View, they're pushing back. They said, no, we want to have this conversation. We're right. Biological boys should be able to compete against biological girls. And if you disagree, you're a transphobe. Again, this is why Democrats lost. This is why they lost. And that's the funny part about this. That's the hilarious part. They never learn, right? They're never going to learn.
So I'm not sure what's going on or why this is an issue.
What is
the
going
same
on?
for me as when people say, oh, you know, I don't know how I feel about you. You do. God doesn't make mistakes.
No.
And the challenge is not to the trans people, it's to the people who are not trans.
There's something I once heard in relation to the Second World War and the British RAF and the German Luftwaffe. From what I understand, the Luftwaffe used to say when they would take off on missions, God is in the cockpit with us. And the British RAF pilots used to similarly say, God is in the cockpit with us. It kind of makes you wonder how that works. I guess both sides thinks they're on the right side of things.
That's what God is looking to see, how you treat people.
Yeah.
That's what is happening. So I was just
right.
curious as to what I liked your answer.
Thank you.
I liked your answer. So yes, would you like me to go to break and then come back with more with Dylan? Right now? Would you right now? Okay.
All right. So now we're going to fast forward to the hens talking about how trans people are victims and yada, 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 how there's a attack on trans people. Again, just not a good look for the Democrat Party, right? Just not a good look.
Back, we're here with Dylan Mulvaney. Sonny has the question.
Yes. Well, as we've been discussing, the trans community is really under attack in this country, right? With gender-affirming care for minors being banned, actually, in many states. The anti-trans rhetoric coming from some conservative lawmakers caused the Human Rights Campaign to declare a state of emergency for the LGBTQ plus community. What is your message to people in the trans community during this time when the community really is under attack?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think what we're living through is something that in the history books will be written about, and I want to make sure that my piece of it is advocacy. And it's interesting because people often put me as an activist when I'm really just a musical theater girl who now wrote a book. But I think if I was to be able to speak directly to trans people, I would tell them that the parts of us that they are attacking are the best parts of us, and that it's what makes us special and is magic. And hopefully they can see that. And if the folks who maybe don't see me as a woman, which is such a shame, but I just hope that they can find a trans person who they can connect with, to see that we are not monsters, that we're not trying to hurt anyone, and that we're really just doing our best, the same as everyone else.
Beautifully said. Now, Dylan, who do you hope?
Remember back in the 2000s when this game swept across the world, everyone was discussing different tactics and units.
Reads this book, and if there's one message they take from it, what would that be?
I can't believe they got Alyssa Farah Griffin as the conservative representation on The View, right? Again, This show is hilarious to me. But again, you know, the crazy part is that a lot of these people behind closed doors, even Sonny Holston, right? I guarantee you they don't believe some of the stuff that they say, right? Like, come on, you don't really believe that the trans community is under attack. The trans community is not under attack, okay? Saying that, listen, we're going to organize society around sex, male and female. You know, hey, that's not an attack on trans people. Saying that minors should wait until they're 18 before they decide to undergo gender affirming care. You know, hey, that's not an attack on trans people. Saying that biological boys can't compete against biological girls in sports, that's not an attack on trans people. We're just enforcing common sense, right? And if Democrats, again, they want to stand against common sense, cool, fine, right? But what you're seeing here from The View, again, they are basically helping confirm that, yeah, the Democrats, they have a full-throated endorsement of this, right? This is something they're behind 100%. And, you know, I just don't think that is going to help them. Again, the crazy part is that they all know behind closed doors, a vast majority of these people agree with the rest of the American people, especially on the issue of trans athletes in sports. But again, they can't say it out loud because they're afraid of their base, right? Also, on top of that, I think there's like this liberal kind of daddy complex where they like to coddle minority communities or communities they see as oppressed and victimized. Okay, they like to have this whole liberal savior.
I mean, that goes back way back into the democratic philosophy or approach, I guess. You've always got this thing, and you saw it during the Summer of Floyd, where there's all this talk about advocates and people speaking out on behalf of particularly the black community, for example, and they always talk as though they know what's best and these people need help, and, you know, we have to, I don't know, it's, well, you know, it's part of the play.
Complex, okay? Liberals, Democrats, oh, we're the protectors of trans people, right?
That's
like
it.
that whole thing going on. Okay, they do that with every community. We're the protectors of the Latinos, aka we're the protectors of illegal immigrants, right? We want to protect the illegals. Okay? Same thing with black people. They do this with every so-called minority group. So I think between that and just being afraid of their base, because some of the people in the Democrat base, they're violent extremists. Yeah, I mean, you know, that I think kind of explains why they're refusing to pivot on what I believe is an easy layup for Democrats that would help their party out tremendously, right? I mean, if they just did this one thing, that would deliver at least some credibility back to the Democrats in order to get the ball rolling for their party to recover. But because they...
Greg Foreman, he chats a lot of sense over there, the black conservative perspective. So it's going to be it for now. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with myself on your radio here at CornerSpeak. Going to be back again very soon. As usual, be good, be safe, and be creative. Because for now, we out.